Chapter 2396. Given Wu Mo's style of doing things, he would kill the seven-colored deer and take its antlers. The seven-colored deer was a demonic beast. Although it couldn't speak, it could understand Wu Mo's words. When it heard Wu Mo's words, its eyes were filled with hatred as it stared at Wu Mo. The seven-colored deer is an auspicious beast of immortal fate. Killing it will hurt one's fate. Chu Fengmian shook his head and said after hearing Wu Mo's words. According to legend, the seven-colored deer was an auspicious sign of heaven and earth. Its seven-colored radiance was enough to bring people luck. In the ancient times, many tribes worshipped the seven-colored deer and prayed for luck. However, compared to the illusory fate, the seven-colored deer's antlers were more valuable. Therefore, when ordinary martial artists and demonic gods encountered the seven-colored deer, they would kill it on the spot and take its antlers. The concept of fate and destiny was illusory. However, Chu Fengmian had lived 2 lives, so he suddenly understood that many of the illusory things in the world weren't completely baseless. After all, if Chu Fengmian hadn't reincarnated in this life, he wouldn't have imagined that a person could really live another life. Therefore, Chu Fengmian didn't want to kill the seven-colored deer. However, he had to get the seven-colored deer's antlers. The effect of the seven-colored deer's antlers was not inferior to a high-grade immortal medicine. It had a great healing effect on Chu Fengmian's injuries. Since he had encountered the seven-colored deer, there was no reason for him to let it go. "I don't want to kill you. As long as you hand over the antlers, I can spare your life. What do you think?" Chu Fengmian thought for a moment, then looked at the seven-colored deer and said slowly. He knew that the seven-colored deer had consciousness and understood Chu Fengmian's words. In that case, Chu Fengmian was more willing to let the seven-colored deer hand over the antlers. Of course, if the seven-colored deer refused to comply, Chu Fengmian wouldn't mind killing it. After all, compared to fate, strength was what Chu Fengmian needed the most. He wouldn't lose the big picture for a small gain. Upon hearing Chu Fengmian's words, a hint of resentment appeared in the eyes of the seven-colored deer. It glared at Chu Fengmian, as though it was simply impossible for him to hand over the seven-colored antlers. The seven-colored antlers were the seven-colored deer's foundation. Although the loss of the antlers would not harm the seven-colored deer's life, it would greatly affect his strength. It was almost equivalent to giving away 1,000 years of hard work. The seven-colored deer stared fixedly at Chu Fengmian. It had no intention of handing over the antlers. "You don't want to hand it over?" Seeing the seven-colored deer's attitude, Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. He only wanted the seven-colored antlers and had no interest in the seven-colored deer. However, since the seven-colored deer was unwilling to hand over the antlers, Chu Fengmian had to do it himself. A shocking murderous intent burst out from Chu Fengmian's body and shrouded the seven-colored deer. Wu Mo, who was standing beside Chu Fengmian, felt a chill in his heart when he felt the killing intent from Chu Fengmian. He had never seen someone with such a terrifying killing intent. At a glance, the killing intent on Chu Fengmian's body had already condensed into a blood-red color. Just the killing intent that burst out from Chu Fengmian's body was not something that ordinary immortal high immortals could withstand. Whoa! Enveloped by the killing intent, the seven-colored deer's expression changed greatly. Its body trembled uncontrollably, and it could not even stand steadily. Chu Fengmian ignored it completely. He condensed his killing intent, and a huge blood-red hand suddenly appeared above the seven-colored deer's head. With a rumble, the blood-red hand came crashing down. Just as it was about to reach the seven-colored deer, the seven-colored deer suddenly let out a long cry. This long cry represented the seven-colored deer's plea for mercy. Hearing this long cry, Chu Fengmian slowly stopped his attack. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Chu Fengmian was indeed unwilling to kill an auspicious sign like the seven-colored deer. However, Chu Fengmian had to obtain the seven-colored antlers. This was something that could not be changed. "Hand over the antlers and I'll let you go," Chu Fengmian looked at the seven-colored deer with cold eyes. Seeing Chu Fengmian's cold eyes, the seven-colored deer's eyes were filled with fear. It hurriedly let out two cries to express its obedience. Indeed, the seven-colored deer was extremely unwilling to hand over the antlers. However, before its life, it still chose to submit. The seven-colored deer hesitated for a long time. Suddenly, a spatial crack slowly opened in front of it. A seven-colored light shone out from the spatial crack. A single horn slowly flew out. This horn was very similar to the horn on the seven-colored deer's head. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that this horn was slightly smaller than the horn on the seven-colored deer's head. After taking out the horn, the seven-colored deer hesitated for a long time. Then, it used its immortal power to send the horn in Chu Fengmian's direction. This is the horn of transformation? When Chu Fengmian saw the horn, he searched through the memories of the Sword Emperor crown in his mind. Soon, he learned of the horn's origin. Although the seven-colored deer's horn was incomparably precious, there was more than one horn. The seven-colored deer could undergo 3 transformations in its lifetime. Each time it underwent a transformation, it would shed a horn. The first transformation was when it reached the immortal high immortal realm. The second transformation was when it reached the immortal exalted realm. The third transformation was when it reached the immortal Emperor realm. However, in the memories of the Sword Emperor crown, there had never been a seven-colored deer that underwent 3 transformations. In the end, it would only undergo 2 transformations. Although the horn would lose some of its power, it would still possess about 80% of the horn's medicinal power. It was also a rare treasure. Chu Fengmian had to go through the memories of the Sword Emperor crown to learn that the seven-colored deer actually possessed a horn of transformation. After all, Chu Fengmian had never actually seen the seven-colored deer. Most of his understanding of the seven-colored deer came from ancient records. As for whether the records were detailed or not, Chu Fengmian was unable to determine. If it wasn't for the Sword Emperor crown's memories, Chu Fengmian likely wouldn't have been able to determine the origin of the horn. Chu Fengmian received the horn. The power contained within it was indeed the power of the seven-colored deer's horn. Merely, it was slightly weaker than the horn on the seven-colored deer's head. If you have the horn of transformation, you should have just handed it over. Why waste so much time? Chu Fengmian put away the horn of transformation. He looked at the seven-colored deer and spoke in a somewhat speechless manner. Chu Fengmian had originally thought that the seven-colored deer would be unwilling to part with the horn on its head after considering it for so long. Never had he imagined that the seven-colored deer would actually be unwilling to part with even the horn of transformation. It could be said that it was extremely greedy. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, the seven-colored deer nervously took a few steps back. It hid the horn properly, as if it was afraid that Chu Fengmian would not admit to it. Chapter 2401. Wu Hao thought that with Chu Fengmian's talent and background, he could only be from the mysterious ancient region. He did not expect Chu Fengmian to reject his suggestion. This caused Wu Hao's face to reveal a look of disappointment. Although I am not from the ancient region, if Elder Hao needs any help, you can tell me, Chu Fengmian said slowly when he saw Wu Hao's disappointed expression. Although Chu Fengmian was not from the ancient region's sorcerer tribe, he was confident that his strength and means were not inferior to the ancient region's sorcerer tribe. Lord Priest, you should trust Brother Chu. His medicine Dao might not be inferior to the ancient region's sorcerer tribe. Seeing that Wu Hao was hesitating, Wu Mo, who was beside him, hurriedly spoke up. However, there was still some hesitation on Wu Hao's face, as if he was still in a dilemma. He raised his head and looked at Wu Mo suddenly. A look of shock appeared in his eyes. You broke through? Only then did Wu Hao notice that Wu Mo had broken through. He had stepped into the celestial realm. Wu Mo's strength did not seem to belong to someone who had just stepped into the celestial realm. He was close to the intermediate celestial realm. In just a few days, Wu Mo's power had increased by several times. This shocked Wu Hao to the extreme. He knew Wu Mo's talent very well. Although he had the potential to become a sorcerer-warrior, he could only become one in his lifetime. After a few decades of hard work, he might have the chance to become a sorcerer-warrior. However, Wu Mo had stepped into the celestial realm and became a true sorcerer-warrior. There were only a few sorcerer-warriors who were so young in the history of the Kunwu tribe. All of this seemed to be related to Chu Fengmian. Wu Mo, come here. Wu Hao waved his hand and Wu Mo came to the bedside. The two of them whispered to each other. Chu Fengmian also heard the conversation clearly. Wu Hao was asking about Wu Mo's breakthrough. Chu Fengmian didn't want to hide anything. He just stood aside and watched. After more than 10 minutes, Wu Hao looked at Chu Fengmian with respect and hope in his eyes after asking all the questions. This old man has eyes but failed to recognize, sir. Please forgive me, sir. Wu Hao slowly got up and bowed respectfully. Wu Mo was inexperienced. He didn't know what Chu Fengmian's Tao of alchemy meant, but Wu Hao knew. An elixir pill that could help Wu Mo directly step into the immortal monarch realm was at least a middle-grade immortal pill. In the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer apothecaries who could refine divine elixirs were all people of high status. They were highly respected in large tribes, and there were very few sorcerer apothecaries who could refine medium-grade divine elixirs. Wu Hao knew that even the most powerful witch pharmacists in some of the large tribes in the southern wasteland were only at this level. A magus pharmacist who was capable of concocting middle-grade immortal pills must have a much higher status than a magus priest from a small clan. According to Wu Mo, Chu Fengmian was not only a wizard pharmacist, but also a wizard warlord. If Wu Hao didn't know Wu Mo's character and knew that he would never lie, he would never believe that such a young wizard pharmacist could be as powerful as a wizard warlord. When he was young, he had traveled to the ancient realm. However, even the so-called geniuses of the ancient realm's sorcerer tribe couldn't reach this level. Now, it didn't matter to him whether Chu Fengmian was from the ancient realm's sorcerer tribe. Chu Fengmian's performance was much more terrifying than the ancient realm's sorcerer tribe. Chu Fengmian's background was unfathomable. He might even be more terrifying than the ancient realm's sorcerer tribe. He might even have a divine magus behind him. In Wu Hao's mind, only the legendary divine magus could cultivate such a genius. Chu Fengmian didn't know that his identity in Wu Hao's mind had become much more mysterious. However, Chu Fengmian was indeed confident. He wasn't afraid of a divine magus's successor. After all, Prince Ling Jian was a disciple valued by an immortal emperor. However, he was still inferior to Chu Fengmian. Elder Hao, you don't have to be so polite. I was only able to recover with the help of the Earth Sorcerer tribe. Elder Hao, if you have something to say, please tell me. Chu Fengmian looked at Wu Hao and said slowly. I invited you here for one thing. I want to ask you to refine a cauldron of elixirs for me. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Wu Hao didn't hesitate anymore. If it was in the past, he wouldn't be qualified to meet someone like Chu Fengmian. Now that he finally met him, he didn't hesitate anymore and said directly. Afraid that Chu Fengmian wouldn't agree, Wu Hao hurriedly said, as long as you are willing to refine the elixirs, you can state any condition. Refine a cauldron of elixirs? Give me the elixirs and elixirs. Hearing this, Chu Fengmian's expression didn't change. Sir, this is? Chu Fengmian's straightforwardness made Wu Hao unable to react. It's just a cauldron of elixirs. It's nothing. However, I don't have the materials you need to refine the elixirs. You need to prepare them yourself. Chu Fengmian said casually. With his recovered strength, as long as Wu Hao didn't want to refine a legendary supreme-grade elixir, it wouldn't be a problem for Chu Fengmian. Supreme-grade elixirs were legendary elixirs that only immortal venerables and immortal emperors were qualified to enjoy. With Wu Hao's status, it was impossible for him to gather a set of materials to refine a supreme-grade elixir. As for high and middle-grade elixirs, Chu Fengmian could refine them as long as he had the elixir recipe. This wasn't a difficult task for Chu Fengmian. I've already prepared them. Please wait for a moment, I'll bring the elixirs and elixir recipe. After making sure that Chu Fengmian agreed, Wu Hao said excitedly. This cauldron of elixirs was very important to him. It was related to life and death. He had been looking for a witch apothecary to refine this cauldron of elixirs. However, there were very few witch apothecaries in the southern wasteland, not to mention a witch apothecary who knew alchemy. A witch apothecary who had the ability to refine this cauldron of elixirs wasn't someone he was qualified to invite. After all, the Kunwa tribe was only a small tribe. Some of the powerful witch warriors in the big tribes didn't even take him, a witch priest, seriously. Now that he met Chu Fengmian, it was as if he had caught the last straw. How could he not be excited? If it wasn't for Wu Hao's inconvenient body, he would have run directly to get the elixirs. Chapter 2402. Wu Hao's legs were inconvenient, but he could instruct Wu Mo. Wu Mo hurriedly left, but Wu Mo soon returned. However, there was an old man following behind Wu Mo this time. Brother Chu, this is, Wu Mo hurriedly spoke when he saw Chu Fengmian's gaze on the old man. However, the old man behind him was quicker to speak. I am Wu Bao, the shaman apothecary of the Kunwa tribe. I heard of your arrival, and came here to learn medicine. Of course, if you are unwilling, I will leave immediately. The shaman apothecary looked at Chu Fengmian and said respectfully. He looked at Chu Fengmian with a nervous expression. Although he was also a shaman apothecary, he had never set foot on the path of alchemy. He only knew how to recognize and prepare herbs. However, Chu Fengmian was said to be a shaman apothecary who could refine middle-grade immortal pills. The difference between their statuses was like heaven and earth. Therefore, he was much more respectful than Wu Hao and Wu Mo in front of Chu Fengmian. He spoke carefully, afraid that he would anger Chu Fengmian. If you are willing to watch me refine pills, you can stay. Chu Fengmian said nonchalantly. Many alchemy grandmasters had their own rules and did not allow outsiders to watch. Firstly, they were worried that others would learn alchemy technique. Secondly, they were afraid that others would disturb them midway and cause their previous efforts to be wasted. However, Chu Fengmian did not mind. His pills could be considered as something he had casually researched and created. There was nothing too mysterious about them. Chu Fengmian's alchemy skills were impressive because of his control over fire. Chu Fengmian had refined the divine body of ice and fire, so his control over fire was unparalleled. This was also Chu Fengmian's greatest trump card in alchemy. However, his control over fire was not something that others could imitate. As for being afraid of being disturbed, Chu Fengmian's temperament would not allow these few people to do so. Wu Bao was overjoyed when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. He hurriedly stood aside respectfully, afraid that he would disturb Chu Fengmian. Did you bring the immortal herbs and pill recipes? Chu Fengmian did not pay attention to him and asked directly. These are immortal herbs. Wu Mo hurriedly handed over a cloth bag. There were about a dozen types of immortal herbs in the bag. There were a total of 3 middle-grade immortal herbs and the rest were low-grade immortal herbs. Judging from this immortal medicine, Wu Hao wanted Chu Fengmian to refine a cauldron of middle-grade immortal pills. However, ordinary middle-grade immortal pills would only require 1 middle-grade immortal herb. However, there were 3 middle-grade immortal herbs in the pouch. Clearly, the middle-grade immortal pills that were being refined were not ordinary middle-grade immortal pills. It should be a mediocre-grade immortal pill that could reach the level of the undefiled immortal pill, which was only one step away from the superior-grade immortal pill. If an alchemist wasn't confident enough to concoct an upper-grade immortal pill, they wouldn't have the confidence to concoct a middle-grade immortal pill of this level. Most alchemists who could concoct middle-grade immortal pills didn't have the ability to concoct a cauldron of immortal pills like this. No wonder Wu Hao had prepared this batch of immortal medicines, but ran into a wall everywhere, unable to find anyone to help him refine pills. A magus pharmacist who was capable of concocting middle-grade immortal pills must have a much higher status than a magus priest from a small clan. Especially from Wu Mo's words, Chu Fengmian wasn't just a magus pharmacist. His strength was close to that of a general magus. If Wu Hao didn't know Wu Mo's character and knew that he would never lie, he wouldn't believe anyone else. How could such a young magus pharmacist have the strength close to that of a general magus? When he was young, he had traveled to the ancient realm. However, even the so-called geniuses of the ancient realm's sorcerer clan couldn't reach this level. Now, whether Chu Fengmian was a member of the ancient realm's sorcerer clan was no longer important to him. Chu Fengmian's performance was already much more terrifying than the ancient realm's sorcerer clan. Chu Fengmian's background was definitely unfathomable. He might even be more terrifying than the ancient realm's sorcerer clan. He might even have a divine magus behind him. In Wu Hao's mind, only the legendary divine magus could cultivate such a genius. Chu Fengmian didn't know that his identity in Wu Hao's mind had become much more mysterious. However, Chu Fengmian was indeed confident. Even if he was the successor of a divine magus, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be afraid. After all, Prince Ling Jian was a disciple that was valued by an immortal emperor. However, he was still inferior to Chu Fengmian. Elder Hao, you don't have to be so polite. I was injured this time, and it was thanks to the help of the Earth Sorcerer tribe that I was able to recover. Elder Hao, if there's anything you want to say, just say it. Chu Fengmian looked at Wu Hao and said slowly, "Well, I did invite you here for one thing. I want to ask you to refine a cauldron of immortal elixirs for me." Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Wu Hao didn't hesitate anymore. If it was in the past, he wouldn't be qualified to meet someone like Chu Fengmian. Now that he finally met him, he didn't hesitate anymore and said directly. Afraid that Chu Fengmian wouldn't agree, Wu Hao hurriedly said, "As long as you're willing to refine the elixir, you can state any condition." Refine a cauldron of immortal elixirs? Give me the elixir and the recipe. Hearing this, Chu Fengmian's expression didn't change. "Sir, this is..." Chu Fengmian's straightforwardness made Wu Hao unable to react. "It's just refining a cauldron of immortal elixirs. It's nothing. However, I may not have the materials you need to refine the elixir. You'll have to prepare them yourself," Chu Fengmian said casually. With the strength he had recovered, as long as Wu Hao didn't want to refine a legendary supreme-grade immortal elixir, it wouldn't be a problem for Chu Fengmian. Supreme-grade immortal elixirs were legendary immortal elixirs that only immortal sovereigns and immortal emperors were qualified to enjoy. With Wu Hao's status, it was impossible for him to gather a set of materials to refine supreme-grade immortal elixirs. As for upper-grade and middle-grade immortal elixirs, Chu Fengmian could refine them as long as he had the recipe. This wasn't a difficult task for Chu Fengmian. "I've already prepared them. Please wait for a moment, sir. I'll bring the elixir and recipe." After making sure that Chu Fengmian agreed, Wu Hao said excitedly, "This cauldron of immortal elixirs was very important to him. It was related to life and death. He had been looking for a witch apothecary to refine this cauldron of immortal elixirs. However, there were very few witch apothecaries in the southern wasteland, not to mention a witch apothecary who knew alchemy. A witch apothecary who had the ability to refine this cauldron of immortal elixirs wasn't someone he was qualified to invite. After all, the Kunwa tribe was only a small tribe. Some of the powerful witch warriors in the big tribes didn't even take him, a witch priest, seriously. Now that he met Chu Fengmian, it was as if he had caught the last straw. How could he not be excited? If it wasn't for Wu Hao's inconvenience, he would have run over to get the elixir directly. Chapter 2404. Although the Sorcerer Golden Elixir was only a medium-grade immortal elixir, it was a medium-grade immortal elixir specially made for the Sorcerer tribe. According to Chu Fengmian's experience in refining the Primal Chaos Sorcerer Divine Pellet, Chu Fengmian was able to refine it. The effect of this Sorcerer Profound Golden Pill was definitely dozens of times better than an ordinary mediocre-grade immortal pill. For Chu Fengmian, the healing effect was definitely not inferior to a high-grade immortal pill. Therefore, Chu Fengmian deliberately asked Wu Hao for a Sorcerer Profound Golden Pill. The mysterious sorcery golden pellet already had such a medicinal effect. If it was added with the 7 colored antlers to increase its quality, this mysterious sorcery golden pellet should be able to heal Chu Fengmian's injuries by 70 to 80%. Now that Chu Fengmian had recovered his strength, it would be more convenient for him to do whatever he wanted. Thinking of this, Chu Fengmian no longer hesitated and placed the 7 colored antlers into the divine 9-dragon cauldron. The 7 colored antlers were condensed from extremely pure power. When they were thrown into the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron, they instantly turned into a ball of pure medicinal liquid. At the same time, Chu Fengmian merged the other medicinal liquid with the 7 colored deer antler. Suddenly, the medicinal liquid condensed together. Countless medicinal power rushed out of the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron as if it wanted to rush out of the cauldron. The heavenly 9-dragon cauldron was shaking crazily. Condensing the core could be said to be the most dangerous step in concocting immortal pills. Especially when refining top-grade immortal pills, the immortal pill's energy would be incomparably violent. If the quality of the pill cauldron wasn't good enough, or if the alchemist's strength wasn't enough, they wouldn't be able to suppress that energy, and the pill cauldron would directly explode. Once the cauldron exploded, the best-case scenario would be the destruction of the pill and the worst-case scenario would be death. Chu Fengmian had not expected that the power of the cauldron would rise to such a level after the addition of the 7 colored antlers. Chu Fengmian found it difficult to suppress the violent impact of the power, which caused the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron to shake. However, Chu Fengmian had already refined a lot of immortal elixirs during this period of time. Soon, Chu Fengmian's mind flickered, and he condensed his power into a huge formation, which fell onto the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron. Soon, the trembling of the divine 9-dragon cauldron began to slowly dissipate, and the medicinal liquid within began to condense into pills. The violent power in the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron had also weakened significantly. After another 2 hours, the trembling of the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron slowly calmed down. At first glance, the heavenly 9-dragon cauldron could no longer be seen with the naked eye. Only by carefully observing with the spiritual sense could one detect a slight fluctuation. The medicinal power had been completely suppressed. All that was left now was to condense the remaining medicinal liquid into the immortal pill. If the medicinal strength was not condensed into the immortal pill, the effect of the immortal pill refined would be slightly inferior. This was also the reason why the quality of the same immortal pill would be different when refined by different alchemists. After all, alchemists who could completely condense medicinal energy into pills were rarely seen since ancient times. All of these alchemists were alchemists of their generation who founded their own sects and were worshipped by later generations. Even the medicine master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters could not compare to such a person. Of course, it was impossible for Chu Fengmian to reach this step. At most, he could condense the medicinal energy into about 80% of the pill. To be able to condense 80% of the medicinal energy, one could be called an alchemy grandmaster. Even in the major medicine sects, he would be an elder. This was also Chu Fengmian's limit. When he condensed about 80% of the medicinal energy, Chu Fengmian also felt that his control of the medicinal energy had reached its limit. If he continued to condense the medicinal energy, he might end up with the immortal pill destroyed. Chu Fengmian decisively stopped and opened the Heavenly Nine Dragon Cauldron. The remaining 20% of medicinal energy turned into a cloud of pill qi and flew out of the Heavenly Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chu Fengmian did not waste the remaining medicinal energy. He immediately took out a jade bottle and used the heaven-devouring secret technique to absorb all the pill qi into the jade bottle. The effect of this cloud of pill qi was not as good as a real immortal pill, but it was still more valuable than many middle-grade immortal pills. For example, the pill qi of a supreme-grade immortal pill was much more precious than a real upper-grade immortal pill. It was incomparably difficult to find. Chu Fengmian absorbed all the pill qi into the jade bottle and used his immortal power to form a cork. After sealing it, Chu Fengmian turned his attention back to the Heavenly Nine Dragon Cauldron. He saw a total of 5 longan-sized elixirs lying quietly in the Heavenly Nine Dragon Cauldron. The pills were the size of longans and had a simple bronze color. There were also runes on them that were similar to Chu Fengmian's immortal inscriptions. This made Chu Fengmian sigh. This sorcerer gold elixir was indeed a kind of immortal pill specially created for the sorcerer tribe. It actually contained the power of the sorcerer tribe. However, other than that, there was nothing special about it. Compared to other immortal pills, it seemed somewhat unremarkable. However, Chu Fengmian could clearly feel that the medicinal energy of each sorcerer gold elixir was countless times greater than the stainless elixir that Chu Fengmian had refined before. The stainless elixir was almost at the peak of middle-grade immortal pills. The medicinal energy of the sorcerer gold elixir was countless times greater than that of the sorcerer gold elixir. It had definitely reached the level of upper-grade immortal pills. Seeing this result, Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. He also knew that the quality of the sorcerer gold elixir was definitely related to the 7-colored antlers. This was also the first time Chu Fengmian had seen the 7-colored antlers. He had only heard of the effects of the 7-colored antlers in rumors. Now, it seemed that the rumors were true. The sorcerer gold elixir that was at the level of middle-grade immortal pills had now been refined into upper-grade immortal pills under the effect of the 7-colored antlers. Moreover, this cauldron of sorcerer gold elixir had refined 5 of them. Generally, only 3 middle-grade immortal pills could be refined in one cauldron at most. Just like when Chu Fengmian refined the stainless elixir, he had only refined 3 of them. The quality of the sorcerer gold elixir should be extremely close to that of the stainless elixir. Moreover, this cauldron of sorcerer gold elixir was at the level of upper-grade immortal pills. A cauldron of upper-grade immortal pills could at most refine 2 or 3 of them. This time, a total of 5 of them had been refined. Furthermore, the medicinal energy of each sorcerer gold elixir was definitely at the level of upper-grade immortal pills. The specific reason for this could only be due to the 7-colored antlers. The enormous medicinal energy of the 7-colored antlers had refined a total of 5 immortal pills out of a total of 2. Furthermore, without exception, the medicinal energy of the 5 sorcerer gold elixirs had all reached the level of upper-grade immortal pills. Chapter 2406. After Wu Mo left, Chu Fengmian slowly sat up on the bed. Then, he moved his palm and a stream of immortal energy flowed from his hand and landed in every corner of the wooden house. Soon, this stream of immortal energy turned into inscriptions in the wooden house. The inscriptions linked together and eventually formed a formation that completely protected the entire wooden house. After setting up the formation, Chu Fengmian hesitated for a moment. Then, with a thought, rays of golden light flew out from Chu Fengmian's body. These rays of golden light were Chu Fengmian's supreme sword qi. One of the rays of golden light was more than 10 times brighter than the other rays of sword light. It was the King's sword qi. Chu Fengmian had encountered Prince Zero Jian in the Star Cave and directly seized the King's sword qi from him. Now, Chu Fengmian had a total of 2,990 rays of supreme sword qi. However, it was a pity that Chu Fengmian couldn't obtain the remaining 10 rays of supreme sword qi because of the intervention of the immortal emperor. As a result, the supreme sword qi couldn't display its full power. However, now that the King Sword Qi was under Chu Fengmian's control, Chu Fengmian could display the true profundity of the Supreme Sword Qi. These 2,990 rays of Supreme Sword Qi had been protecting Chu Fengmian in the Star Cave storm. Just like Chu Fengmian, they had lost their power. However, as Chu Fengmian's strength recovered, a portion of the 2,990 rays of Supreme Sword Qi also recovered. Although it was less than half, it was enough to set up the formation. Chu Fengmian was now in the Kunwa tribe. Although the Kunwa tribe didn't seem to be hostile to Chu Fengmian, he still had to be vigilant. Therefore, in addition to the formation that Chu Fengmian set up on the surface, Chu Fengmian also secretly summoned the Supreme Sword Qi. It turned into a Supreme Sword formation beside Chu Fengmian to protect him. This Supreme Sword formation was invisible. Even immortal lords and immortal saints couldn't detect it. This was also Chu Fengmian's final trump card. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian returned to the bed and sat down cross-legged. Now, Chu Fengmian's face didn't look tired at all. Chu Fengmian's tired look just now was just a disguise. For Chu Fengmian, even refining an upper-grade immortal elixir wouldn't make him so tired. Chu Fengmian's strength was gradually recovering, and the effects of his divine veins had also recovered a lot. With the support of his divine veins, he was able to recover his strength at all times. For Chu Fengmian, concocting immortal pills had consumed a lot of immortal energy. He was in a hurry to leave as he wanted to refine the Sorcerer Golden Pill as soon as possible to recover his strength. The immortal elixir was a healing immortal elixir. Of Chu Fengmian, the golden elixir. Chu Fengmian elixir was the elixir of the elixir of elixir. The efficacy of the sorcerer profound golden elixir would begin to fade after 2 hours. Chu Fengmian had already made hundreds of jade boxes. Once the elixir was refined, he would put the elixir into the jade boxes to prevent the efficacy from fading away. This mysterious sorcerer Golden Dan flew out of the jade box. In just a few breaths' time, Chu Fengmian smelled a medicinal fragrance. This mysterious sorcerer Golden Dan emitted a little bit of medicinal efficacy. It was a great tonic for some of the weaker warriors. However, the medicinal power of the sorcerer Golden Pill would slowly dissipate over time. Chu Fengmian quickly swallowed the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill and operated the sky-devouring secret technique. Suddenly, an incomparably pure medicinal power poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The medicinal efficacy was so great that none of the immortal pills that Chu Fengmian had consumed and refined could compare to it. This was Chu Fengmian's first time refining an upper-grade immortal pill. The enormous medicinal power rushed into Chu Fengmian's body and poured into the 129,600 immortal crystals. The medicinal efficacy of the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill was so great that Chu Fengmian did not need to activate the immortal crystals to devour it. Moreover, although the medicinal efficacy of the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill was not great, it was extremely mild and not violent at all. The power within it seemed to be restrained by the power of the sorcerer tribe. If the sorcerer tribe devoured it, the medicinal efficacy would be reduced to the mildest level. It's worthy of being an immortal pill created by the sorcerer tribe's alchemist. It's really something. Chu Fengmian also felt that this mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill was really an immortal pill that was tailor-made for the sorcerer tribe. The sorcerer tribe would not be threatened if they devoured the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill. As long as they had condensed the heavenly sorcerer real body and reached adulthood, they would be able to devour the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill. However, if the experts of other tribes wanted to devour the mysterious sorcerer Golden Pill, it would not be so easy. With the enormous medicinal efficacy of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill, even an immortal master would not be able to withstand it if it went berserk. Only a celestial saint would have the confidence to devour the mysterious sorcerer golden pill. Moreover, they would need to use their power to dissolve a part of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill's power. In this case, the same mysterious sorcerer golden pill would have a completely different effect if it was devoured by the sorcerer tribe or a martial artist. This mysterious sorcerer golden pill was absolutely the most suitable pill for the sorcerer tribe. When Chu Fengmian devoured the mysterious sorcerer golden pill, he had already devoured some of it and was trying to resist the violent medicinal efficacy. After all, the higher the quality of an immortal pill, the greater the medicinal efficacy it contained. It was not something that anyone could devour. For some weaker martial artists and demon deities, devouring an upper-grade immortal pill would not benefit them at all. Instead, they might explode and die. For them, an upper-grade immortal pill was not an immortal pill, but a poisonous pill. However, the mysterious sorcerer golden elixir was extremely gentle to the sorcerer tribe. This stunned Chu Fengmian for a moment. However, Chu Fengmian quickly gathered all of his energy into the 129,600 immortal crystals and activated them to refine the medicinal power of the mysterious sorcerer golden elixir. The medicinal efficacy of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill did not require Chu Fengmian's control as it poured into the 129,600 immortal crystals. For Chu Fengmian, what he needed to do now was to concentrate and activate the 129,600 immortal crystals to devour the medicinal efficacy. A steady stream of medicinal energy was devoured. After absorbing enough medicinal energy, the broken immortal crystals began to reform and transform into brand new immortal crystals. Chapter 2407. The potency of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill poured into Chu Fengmian's body as if it was tailor-made for the immortal crystals. Of the 129,600 immortal crystals, other than the broken ones, the other perfect ones were also devouring the power of the mysterious shaman gold pill. Not only could the mysterious sorcerer golden pill heal injuries, but the potency it contained was also a great supplement to the immortal crystals, enough to upgrade them again. The endless potency was divided into the 129,600 immortal crystals and refined one by one. The immortal crystals on Chu Fengmian's body were all reconstructed. Chu Fengmian's aura was rising steadily, his strength was rapidly recovering. When the potency of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill was completely refined by Chu Fengmian, his immortal crystals recovered another 20,000. His strength had recovered to about 50%. The mysterious sorcerer golden pill was indeed a top-grade immortal pill. Just one pill alone had restored 20,000 immortal crystals in Chu Fengmian's body. And it wasn't that simple. The other immortal crystals on Chu Fengmian's body were also rising steadily after devouring the potency of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill. Although these immortal crystals hadn't reached the level where they could evolve to the next level, they were still much stronger than before. Chu Fengmian could clearly feel his strength increasing. The 129,600 immortal crystals in his immortal true body were the source of Chu Fengmian's power. The rise of these immortal crystals led to the rapid growth of Chu Fengmian's strength. If this continued, Chu Fengmian's strength would surpass before he recovered from his injuries. This mysterious sorcerer golden pill should be able to be consumed again. Chu Fengmian observed the potency of the mysterious sorcerer golden pill and found that it wasn't like the immaculate pill, which could only be consumed once. Chu Fengmian refined this cauldron of mysterious sorcerer golden pills. With the help of the 7 colored antlers, he refined a total of 5 pills. Apart from the one he gave to Wu Hao, Chu Fengmian swallowed another one. Now Chu Fengmian had 3 pills left. After determining that the mysterious sorcerer golden pill could be consumed again, Chu Fengmian didn't hesitate and immediately took out another mysterious sorcerer golden pill from his spatial ring. He opened the jade box and took out the mysterious sorcerer golden pill, putting it into his mouth. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also used the sky-devouring secret technique. The moment the mysterious sorcerer golden pill fell into Chu Fengmian's mouth, it was immediately crushed by the sky-devouring power, turning it into pure potency that poured into Chu Fengmian's body. A few minutes passed. The mysterious sorcerer golden pill's potency. The mysterious sorcerer golden pill was refined and absorbed by the mysterious sorcerer golden pill. The mysterious sorcerer golden pill's potency was extremely mild. It was also very easy for Chu Fengmian to refine it. In a few minutes, the mysterious sorcerer golden pill's potency was completely refined by Chu Fengmian. However, this time, only 10,000 immortal crystals in Chu Fengmian's body were restored, and the potency was reduced by half. Although the mysterious sorcerer golden pill wasn't as extreme as the immaculate pill and could be consumed multiple times, the mysterious sorcerer golden pill's potency could only be fully refined when the first mysterious sorcerer golden pill was swallowed. The second mysterious sorcerer golden pill only had about 50% of its potency left and could be refined. The potency of any kind of elixir would become weaker after continuous consumption. It wasn't obvious when consuming some divine elixirs, but it was extremely obvious when it came to the immortal elixir level. However, another 10,000 immortal crystals were restored. Now, Chu Fengmian's body had restored about 70,000 immortal crystals, which restored a part of his strength. For Chu Fengmian, the most important thing was to restore as much strength as possible. If he continued to consume and refine the mysterious sorcerer golden pill, the potency of the next mysterious sorcerer golden pill would be much weaker. Continuously refining the same upper-grade immortal elixir was an extremely extravagant behavior, but Chu Fengmian didn't care now. Only after restoring his strength would Chu Fengmian have the capital to establish himself in the three great sacred regions. As for elixirs, Chu Fengmian could refine them again. Another mysterious sorcerer golden pill was refined. This time, the potency of this mysterious sorcerer golden pill was reduced by half again. It only had a quarter of the potency of the first mysterious sorcerer golden pill. The immortal crystals in Chu Fengmian's body had been restored to about 80,000 pieces. His strength had finally recovered to about 60%. Chu Fengmian had also consumed 3 mysterious sorcerer golden pills. In Chu Fengmian's hand, there was only one mysterious sorcerer golden pill left. Chu Fengmian considered for a moment and decided not to continue refining this mysterious sorcerer golden pill. Every mysterious sorcerer golden pill's potency would be reduced by half. Even if Chu Fengmian were to consume and refine this mysterious sorcerer golden pill, he would only be able to recover about 1,000 immortal crystals at most. For Chu Fengmian, it was just a drop in the bucket. It would be better to keep this last mysterious sorcerer golden pill. Chu Fengmian put away the last mysterious sorcerer golden pill and slowly opened his eyes. After recovering another 20% of his strength, Chu Fengmian's strength was getting closer to the immortal saint realm. However, Chu Fengmian hadn't really seen an immortal saint realm existence, so his estimation of his strength was only a guess. As for what level Chu Fengmian's strength had reached, Chu Fengmian would have to fight with a real immortal saint expert to know. After refining all 3 mysterious sorcerer golden pills, Chu Fengmian wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he continued to sit cross-legged on the bed as images emerged in his mind. The contents of these images were the scenes of Chu Fengmian fighting with various demonic beasts and ferocious beasts in the southern desolate mountain forest. Chu Fengmian treated all the demonic beasts and ferocious beasts in the southern desolate mountain forest as opponents to gain experience. His swordsmanship also improved by leaps and bounds after each battle. An ancient sword Tao book emerged above Chu Fengmian's head. Now, this ancient sword Tao book had become more and more majestic, making people who saw it couldn't help but respect it. If this ancient sword Tao book was taken out, it would definitely be more profound than the real immortal emperor sword art. If an ordinary sword cultivator could create such a sword Tao book, it would be enough to leave their name in history and be passed down for generations. However, this was still far from Chu Fengmian's requirement. The 9-region sword art he wanted to create was the best sword art in the world. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.